probably shouldn't be doing this because I don't have a lot of time, but I kind of want to. It sort of helps me relax. And I wanted to try out this new Good from Rublev Vine charcoal. It's basically charred grapevines from Germany. It's got a long, detailed explanation about how they're processed, but I really don't remember right this second. These are actually the Rublev tubes. They're a slight bit bigger and they got a smaller opening. Like this is one type. This is the cheapest ones I got. These are the first ones I got. They're a little thinner. They're actually not, thinner. They got a larger opening, which is okay. With thicker paint, with thinner paint, it's not really that good. And I've got these, about like those, a smaller, same size opening. And I've only used these a couple times. These are the big ones. I might start using that for the colors that I use so much of, like Prussian and burnt sienna, so I don't have to keep using so much of it. I'm not using any calcite, I don't think, because the last few times I've done that, it's tended to harden in the tube after about 6 months. So I'm going to just try to use nothing but pigment and binder, and add calcite later while I'm working if I need to. If I need to bulk up the paint. This is the same mix oil I always use. It's 25% walnut, 75% linseed, heated at 150 degrees Celsius for an hour. And it really changes the way the oil behaves. It gets rid of a lot of the stringiness, I found out, in the paints. It was kind of the consistency of a lot of it was like big thick brownie, and it just didn't work at all until I heated the oil. The first stage is really just getting everything wet. And the wax oil that this right here, that helps with the stringiness too, helps with the consistency. I usually don't add it until a little bit later. And not much of it, as little as I can get away with, because wax would, kind of keep it from drying the way it should. It'll dry, but it's not going to be as hard a surface as it normally would be in the paint film. So I'm not going to talk unless I have something to say. Wrong way. Forgot. Video's upside down. And I would wear a mask with any kind of pigment like this until you get it to the stage where it's all wet and it's not really airborne anymore. But now it's at the stage where when it's disturbed, it could fly up. This is not that light of pigment, but it still will do it. And they have specific ratios for all this, especially Rublev will tell you how much oil the pigment can hold, but I really don't have the equipment to weigh out everything exactly. So it's pretty much just a guessing game. You can overshoot it in that oil, or you can just add pigment if you have too much oil. Just go back and forth till you get consistency that you want. As long as there's enough oil for it to act as a binder. You don't want it to have so little oil that it doesn't hold together when it's dry. It'd be hard to push it that far. It wouldn't be really easy to work with at that point. So this one may not need oil. Some of them don't. I mean, it may not need wax oil. It seems to have a pretty good consistency anyway. At this stage, you're trying to get it all wet. Mulling with this is when you try to get the particles. You're not grinding it up. That's a different stage, and I didn't even grind this up because I don't think it needed it. But you're not grinding the particles any smaller. You're trying to break up the clumps that are still like this. I mean, this looks wet, but it's still a lot of tiny clumps that are still going to be dry on the inside. So you kind of use the pressure of the muller to kind of shear those off into smaller pieces until it breaks down smaller. But you're not grinding. There are very few pigments that I've had to grind. I think Prussian blue is one that you're supposed to, because it's just really gritty. But I even quit doing that because I just live with the consistency. I don't feel like grinding it up too much. And also it'll make it more opaque too. So that's another thing. Okay, this looks like not quite enough. I know I haven't molded it yet. But it's not looking like quite enough. And this is vine charcoal. It's the same stuff they make vine charcoal out of. I mean, it's just little tiny sticks. It's the same substance. It's supposed to be a slow dryer like bone black. I've used it before and I like it because it's not flat black. It's more of a dark gray. And if you look closely, you can't see here, but some blacks are blue and some are red. This is more of a red. This is more of a red. Really dark brown. Probably. This just doesn't look like nearly enough. Okay. A little bit more. I really didn't mean to mix that with the stuff I'd already mixed together. I was going to mix it eventually, but I wanted to kind of separate what I'd already got fairly worked in. I've got to be asleep in like an hour, so I really shouldn't be doing this, but I just felt like it. And this is not the official professional way, just squirting the stuff on there and eyeballing it, but yeah. I've had people ask me about selling paints like this, but it's not. It wouldn't be really cost effective. I would have to charge. I'd have to charge as much to where you'd be better off just buying store-bought paint. And also, like I've had tubes harden within like 6 months. You can use them, but they're just a pain, and I don't really want anyone using something that I'm not 100% sure about. I mean, I'm sure enough to use them on my own work, but I don't want someone to wind up with a tube of paint, and if it's stiff in 6 months, they're pissed off at me. But it does add something when you make your own paints. I mean, it's not like I'm really doing everything. I'm not grinding the pigments from rocks, but it's something, I guess. I'm getting closer to the right volume, but I'm wondering if I made this too wet. That still doesn't look like enough. Okay, just a little bit more. I'm trying not to add a whole lot more oil to it because I plan on mulling it just a little bit. When I do, it sometimes loosens up. So I'd have to add more pigment to it, and then the volume would be more than I need. So it's best just to do a bunch of this and just have a couple tubes sitting aside and just make as much as you need to. You got some left over, just make half a tube out of the cheap tubes. That's way too much right there. Way too much. I usually use a dropper. I don't know why I'm not right now. I hope this is... I don't even know if this is shit. I guess it works, but I don't even know if this is my heated oil. I just realized that. I mean, it's working, so it's fine. But actually, I think most of the oil I use is heated at this point. I think I just made a big batch of it and just have been using that same batch. I've got several jars of it just sitting around. Alright. And it's sun bleached too, I forgot. It's heated and sun bleached. I put it outside for about a month to lighten it up. When I read about people say how you're doing this for hours and hours, and I mean, I guess you could keep doing it for hours and get it like ice cream consistency, I guess. But I've never spent that long on them. I've probably spent an hour, the longest on one of them. You can tell after it's mauled. I don't know if you can really tell from the video, but I can tell from up here, up close, the difference in it. It kind of gets sort of pearlescent instead of chalky looking. More the particles are surrounded, I guess. Ideally, they would all be surrounded in oil, which is not going to happen, but you want the clumps as small as you can make them. And I can't see the clumps at all already, but it's just, you can tell by the overall consistency. See, I don't know if you can see, but I can tell a big difference. It had sort of a sandpaper look consistency if you looked at it earlier. Yep, that happens all the time. Luckily I didn't sling paint everywhere that time. It's still starting to look like it's not enough. I don't know at what point you get good at estimating paint, but I suck at it right now as far as estimating how much I'm going to wind up with. And I guarantee if I start adding right now, I'm going to wind up with twice as much as I need. As it is now, I may have a tube that's Shorter. I can switch to a shorter tube now. I've got that. This paint doesn't seem as messy as some that I've used either, so I don't really plan on cleaning up. Of course, I said that as soon as I got some all over my hand. Some, like phthalo or like the Prussian blue, I just don't. Prussian, I love the color, but I hate making it because it's so. It gets all over everything. It stains everything it touches for a second. So I don't mind clothes, but it's all over every surface you touch. You get it everywhere, and it takes an hour to clean up. It almost looks like graphite once it's molded like this. It's not that you're putting a tremendous amount of pressure on this stuff either. It takes some pressure, but and I think this plate that I'm using, which is just a floor tile that I bought, I don't think it has enough tooth to it, really. So I may eventually replace it. But I mean, it was like $4 or $3 or something, so. Really sandblasted glass is what people use a lot. But I'd already bought so many pigments and other supplies, I just didn't feel like spending a whole lot on that part. I guess I'm just going to go with this. Sometimes I'm careful about the lid, the first batch I put in here, the first couple things, because you want to go down to the end of the, here it is, the lid, and you want it to block up the holes so you don't have bubbles at the bottom, air bubbles, air pockets. Yeah, you can see it's already reached the bottom, so it's good to. You don't really want to tamp it down with the caps a whole lot, unless you're being really careful. So this is a little bit. I like it this way because I can loosen it up later. I'd rather it be thick like this because once it's loose, there's not really anything you can do when you're painting with it except work with it that way. You can bulk it up, but then that's a lot of extra effort. This way, if it's thick, you can just add a couple of drops of oil and get it the way you want it. Feels like it's about here. I opted for the one that's slightly smaller, so it may be close to the right side. I can see it, I'm sorry, you can't see it, but I can see it to measure it. It's a little bit, it's not even quite enough to fill this up. But I can always, cut the tube whatever size I want or crimp it as much as I need to get it. Still didn't get enough. It's close though. Once I fold it over and get all this excess off everything. Sometimes you can have a pretty good bit, especially on the molar. And because this doesn't seem to be like a really staining pigment, as far as mess making, I may not even, when I get done, I may just wipe this off. I may not even, you know, clean it completely off. Yeah. It's pretty heavy, I mean, because it's straight pigment. I didn't add anything to it. Actually, I think I got pretty close to right here, which is about where you want it, because you have to have room to fold it down and crimp it. I try to do this as neat as I possibly can, but it's not that easy. Okay. First I do this, I'm trying to show you the whole process. First I'm doing this, wrap it on paper towel, pull it this way, just try to get the excess off of it. This is more neatness than, I'm not really trying to conserve any paint. Here I'll go into the tube a little bit. I'm going to crimp this, and I really don't want it all flying out all over the place. Okay. There we go. Okay. I'm going to get the tube dirty anyway because I have paint. The paint is about right here, so I'm going to start about where I think the paint ends, which is right there. Crimp it. I'm not really crimping it right now, I'm just doing it, well, kind of crimping it by hand. Put this plate here, just so I don't put it in the paint. Just use a clean knife so I don't get everything dirty again. Alright, let's try to get that halfway clean. And with this, I'll measure. They're already getting paint all over everything, but that's fine. I'll clean it. It won't help to use a clean paper towel. Measure down. You can see this. Not probably maybe 1/4 of an inch, and just start it. Okay. And sometimes I'll press it down again, flatten that part, and then I'm going to fold it again. Try to keep it straight. I can. But that's it. It's about to go all crazy. There. Sometimes I would do it more than this, but since I kind of got it close, I'm only going to do it twice. And I wouldn't leave it this way. At this point, actually, yeah, I used to do it this way with a pair of pliers or needle nose and crimp it down like that, which is the way most people would probably do it, but I just happen to have a tube ringer, so I just start it like I'm going to ring the tube. Start it. Crimp it down, and then just turn it back. Turn it back. I'm going to tighten it. Pull the tube through just a little bit. There you go. So that puts a couple of good crimps in it. That's it. Not quite it. Almost it, but it's just, you see the insides right there. I mean, it's not really runny, but I don't like to paint that way. What I usually do at this point is just label. Take off my glove since I'm using the label at this point, and I'll avoid getting more paint on it. Started using my addressing, my mailing address on here. I think that's the way I did it, but I do it that way anyway. I like the way it looked on the other one. I can't remember which way I did it. I can't find any. Uh-oh. Where'd that go? Okay. It's only one that I did that with. I don't know what I did with it. Sure, that looks fine. Whatever. I'll do that on the back side, I guess. This side, we'll put the label.
He's hiding with you, isn't he? You want to stay here with Daddy?
Okay. Well, no, it's PBK. PBK level. PBK 11. What is it, 21? 22? I don't know, man. I can't remember. I'm not supposed to remember that kind of stuff. And then I usually put like a little sample of the color. And find a strip of tape that doesn't have dog hair on it, which is almost impossible. And then cover all this so that it doesn't come off easily. And you can wipe it off. If it gets paint on it, you can just wipe off the tape. Okay. As long as you wrap it around one time, it should stay on. You just want to make sure it overlaps. That's it. Usually I'll write heated oil and all that stuff, but at this point I pretty much assume that's what I use every time. Although, I guess I'll write it on there anyway, but I should. Hold on. Alright. Heated. But there's no calcite, so I don't really need to put anything else on here. Okay. Alright. That is it. Here we can. There we go. You can't read that, but isn't that spiffy? Alright now.